Captain Elias Monroe stepped off the sleek human shuttle and onto the crystalline landing platform of Trivara, trying to hide his awe behind a calm expression. The sky above shimmered with two suns, casting a golden-pink light over the alien city. Towering spires made of a translucent material stretched high into the sky, refracting light into dazzling rainbows. Despite the grandeur, Elias could sense something strange in the air, a subtle tension, a mix of curiosity and judgment from the figures observing him from the palace balcony above. He straightened his jacket, brushing off imaginary dust, and reminded himself that he had faced more than his share of scrutiny on Earth. But this was different. This was a planet where humans were considered primitive, fragile, and amusingly clumsy. And before him were three of the most infamous figures in the galaxy, the sisters of the Trivaran royal court, Leora, Vasha, and Trelia. The three sisters descended gracefully from the palace balcony, their movements fluid, almost ethereal. Leora, the eldest, had silver eyes that seemed to pierce through his very thoughts. Vasha, the middle sister, had long, iridescent hair that reflected the sunlight in shifting colors, while Trelia, the youngest, had a mischievous grin that never left her face. Their skin shimmered faintly, like polished gemstones, and their presence carried a kind of unspoken authority. As soon as Elias entered the main courtyard, the sisters' laughter rang out, melodic and sharp. "Well, well," Leora said, her voice smooth but tinged with amusement. "Look at the human, so small, so ordinary. He moves strangely, like a machine missing a few gears. I come in peace, to represent humanity and learn from your esteemed civilization. But humans have other strengths: ingenuity, creativity, adaptability. Sometimes these are more powerful than raw knowledge. And sometimes trying is enough to surprise you." His presence was commanding, a mixture of regality and sternness. "So this is the human that my court finds amusing," he said, his deep voice resonating across the courtyard. "Tell me, human, do you know why you have come? And if it pleases you, to show that humans have qualities that deserve respect." "Shall we begin?" she asked, her tone a mix of amusement and challenge. Elias nodded. "If that is your wish." Humans rarely notice the hidden. "Interesting," Leora said, hiding a small smile. "You notice what others miss. That is unexpected. Sometimes that matters more than innate ability. We wonder if you can even lift our training instruments, let alone wield them effectively." Elias had no such innate grace, but he relied on speed, timing, and observation. When a pole swung toward him, he dodged with careful calculation, using the momentum of his movements to gain leverage. The sisters gasped slightly, not because he was perfect, far from it, but because he adapted. He learned their patterns quickly, improvised, and used their confidence against them. "You are unusual," Vasha said, shaking her head. "Most humans would have fallen immediately, yet you adjust, adapt, survive." They led him into a room filled with holographic representations of alien clans, some of whom were currently in political tension. "Resolve this," Leora said. "Create a solution that avoids conflict. Humans are not known for negotiation skills beyond simple trade." He listened to the details of each clan's grievances and ambitions, piecing together motives, fears, and potential compromises. He proposed alliances, temporary concessions, and shared ventures that no one else had considered. By the time he finished, the room was silent. The sisters looked at him with eyes wide in disbelief. You actually did it," Trelia whispered. "You resolved it." "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only wish to show that humans are worthy of consideration among the stars." Leora stepped closer and said, "Perhaps humans are not as simple as we believed." But today, he had survived ridicule, demonstrated human ingenuity, and earned the faintest spark of respect in a court that had never thought highly of his kind. As the sun set over Trivara, bathing the crystalline city in deep shades of amber and violet, Elias walked through the palace gardens alone for a moment. He breathed in the alien air, letting it settle in his lungs, and allowed himself to feel a quiet pride. Humans had arrived on this distant world, underestimated and dismissed, yet already making their mark. And he knew with certainty that this was only the beginning. The sisters watched him from afar, their expressions unreadable. Leora's silver eyes lingered on him a moment longer than necessary. Vasha's shifting hair caught the last rays of the sun as she frowned thoughtfully. Trelia's mischievous grin returned, but it lacked its usual cruelty. The human had survived. The human had adapted. And perhaps, just perhaps, the human might change the course of Trivara's history. The next morning, the palace of Trivara seemed alive with anticipation. Word of the humans' unexpected success had spread quickly through the royal court. Servants whispered in corridors, guards exchanged surprised glances, and even the minor nobles peered curiously from balconies. Captain Elias Monroe was escorted through the halls with formal greetings, but he noticed subtle differences from the previous day. The court no longer laughed at him openly. Instead, there was a kind of wary interest, a silent question. What will he do next? The sisters were waiting in a large chamber filled with light. Leora sat on a raised platform, her silver eyes observing Elias intently. Vasha leaned against a shimmering column, her shifting hair reflecting the sunbeams, and Trelia paced near the windows, her grin playful but cautious. "Human," Leora said, her voice calm but commanding, "today's trials will show whether your abilities are merely luck or something more. We have prepared challenges designed to test your mind, your body, and your wit in ways you cannot yet imagine. It changes, shifts, and reacts to your thoughts and actions." Hallways appeared and disappeared, walls extended and retracted, and the paths before him seemed to respond to his hesitation. He paused, taking a slow breath. Humans had a way of observing carefully before acting. He watched the movement of the walls, noting patterns and timing, even as they shifted unpredictably. He began to move with purpose, testing small steps in different directions, learning the maze's language through observation and deduction. Minutes passed, and the sisters observed from the balcony above. They had expected him to panic, to run blindly into walls or fall into hidden traps. Yet Elias moved steadily, adjusting his path, predicting the maze's reactions, and even using its shifts to his advantage. When a wall extended toward him unexpectedly, he ducked and used the momentum to swing to a safer platform. Vasha frowned slightly. He anticipates the changes, a human predicting movement we assumed only a Trivaran mind could sense. Leora's lips twitched with what might have been the start of a smile. Most humans would have failed. You, however, adapted. Well done. You may have more patience than I expected. Most humans are too slow to matter. Leora's strikes flowed like water, Vasha's movements were sharp and unpredictable, and Trelia's attacks came with mischievous speed. Elias dodged, ducked, and used the environment to his advantage. A swinging pole knocked him off balance, but he grabbed another platform, swinging across a gap with momentum and landing safely. The sisters' expressions shifted from amusement to astonishment. Elias was not perfect, but he adapted in ways they had not expected. He did not match them in raw skill, but he turned the environment to his advantage, creating opportunities where none seemed to exist. Finally, he paused, breath steady, and raised his hand. The trial ended. The sisters exchanged silent, impressed looks. "You are unpredictable," Leora admitted. "A human using logic and observation where others rely on raw power. It is effective." The sisters presented him with a holographic simulation of several alien clans, each in dispute over trade routes, resources, and territory. His task was to mediate and find a solution that prevented conflict. Most humans would have been overwhelmed by the complexity, but Elias had learned long ago that listening carefully and thinking creatively were his strongest tools. He studied the holograms, noting patterns of alliances, grudges, and shared interests. Slowly, he proposed compromises and partnerships that balanced the clan's needs. Leora leaned forward, her silver eyes fixed on him. "You are not merely surviving these challenges. You are exceeding expectations. You face challenges we assumed impossible for your kind, and you do so with patience, intelligence, and courage. Humans are different than I imagined. I look forward to learning, and to continuing to prove that humans are capable of much more than they are often given credit for." He had faced ridicule, tests designed to highlight human weakness and impossible challenges, and he had not only survived, but impressed the most powerful and discerning beings in the galaxy. The sisters watched him from the palace balcony, their expressions unreadable. Leora's silver eyes lingered on him longer than necessary. Vasha's shifting hair caught the last rays of the sun as she frowned thoughtfully. Trelia's mischievous grin returned, but it lacked the cruelty it had held yesterday. Elias knew that the real challenges were just beginning. The sisters' mockery had faded, replaced by curiosity, admiration, and perhaps even a hint of competition. And he knew that patience, observation, and human ingenuity would be his greatest allies in the trials to come. For the first time, he felt that humanity was not merely surviving in the galaxy. It was beginning to earn its place, one challenge at a time. The morning air on Trivara carried a crisp energy, and the palace corridors buzzed with anticipation. The court had not seen a human like Elias Monroe before, and whispers of his cleverness had spread like wildfire. Even the minor nobles and palace staff spoke of him in tones of astonishment and curiosity. The sisters, who once mocked him openly, now regarded him with cautious respect. Leora's silver eyes often lingered on him longer than necessary. Vasha's shifting hair seemed to shimmer with unusual intensity when he spoke, and Trelaya's mischievous grin had softened into one of intrigued amusement. Elias felt the change too, though he remained calm. He had learned long ago that patience and observation were as important as intelligence. Today would be another test, and he knew that the sisters' expectations would be higher than ever. Leora approached him first, her expression composed but serious. "Human, you have demonstrated skill, perception, and intelligence, yet our court is not merely interested in survival or cleverness. It is interested in leadership, in foresight, and in courage. Today, we will see how you respond under pressure." The sisters explained that a neighboring clan, the Curran, had grown increasingly aggressive. They had launched small raids on Trivara's outer colonies, testing the defenses, and the sisters wanted to see how Elias would respond. "You will create a plan to defend the kingdom and prevent further attacks," Vasha said. "Humans rarely think strategically on a galactic scale. Most fail." Then he considered Trivara's strengths: the sisters' psychic abilities, the loyalty of the other clans, and the kingdom's knowledge of the terrain. By combining these elements, he began formulating a strategy that relied not on brute force, but on clever deployment, misdirection, and alliances. Leora observed him closely. He is not merely reacting. He is anticipating, calculating, adapting. This is unusual for a human. Finally, he designed a method for the sisters themselves to use their powers efficiently, concentrating on strategic strikes rather than continuous energy expenditure. Vasha and Trelaya exchanged looks, impressed despite themselves. "He actually considered the strengths of the enemy and the strengths of our kingdom," Vasha muttered. "He thinks differently." Most humans would have suggested a frontal assault or panicked under pressure. You calculated and adapted. You have foresight. Instead, you have shown courage, intelligence, and creativity. Perhaps humans are not so simple after all. There was one more test before any real acceptance could occur: the test of adaptability in an unpredictable crisis. No sooner had the words left Trelaya's lips than the chamber's alarms rang. The holographic models shifted, displaying red alerts across the star systems. A real fleet of Curran ships had been detected entering Trivara's outer defenses, much earlier than anyone anticipated. The sisters' initial plans were thrown into chaos. Leora's eyes narrowed. "This is unexpected. The human may need to act quickly." Using a combination of logic and creativity, he issued instructions that allowed for an immediate response. He suggested deploying smaller interceptor ships in patterns designed to confuse the enemy, using Trivara's energy fields to guide them strategically. Simultaneously, he instructed the sisters to focus their powers on key points that would force the Curran to retreat without causing large-scale damage. Vasha and Trelaya followed his guidance, adjusting their psychic attacks and energy manipulations according to his instructions. The Curran were disoriented by the strategy, their advance faltering as they encountered obstacles they had not anticipated. Elias remained calm, monitoring every shift and making slight adjustments, guiding Trivara's forces like a conductor directing an orchestra. The battle ended with Trivara's outer colonies untouched, and the Curran retreating hastily, confused and frustrated. The sisters looked at Elias in astonishment. They had expected to intervene and correct the plan themselves, but his strategy had succeeded with minimal intervention. Leora's silver eyes shone with respect. "You have saved our colonies and our people with your foresight and cleverness. Few Trivarans could have done as well under pressure." "We misjudged you. Human ingenuity is remarkable." "Captain Monroe, your actions have not only impressed us but have saved Trivara from potential disaster. Your adaptability, courage, and intelligence are qualities that should be honored, not mocked." The teasing and mockery of the first day had been replaced by curiosity, respect, and even a hint of playful rivalry. They began to interact with him differently, questioning his ideas and challenging him in ways that required creativity rather than mockery. Leora often asked for his opinion on political matters. Vasha inquired about strategies for exploration and defense, and Tralia engaged him in discussions that tested his wit and humor. For the first time, Elias realized he was no longer merely surviving the court's scrutiny. He was participating as an equal, shaping decisions and earning the trust of those who had once laughed at him. That evening, as the sons of Trivara set in a riot of colors, Elias walked through the palace gardens with the sisters. The air was calm, the crystalline structures reflecting the fading light. Leora's silver eyes studied him thoughtfully. "You have a perspective unlike any other being I have met. Humans may lack certain abilities, but you make up for it in intelligence, courage, and ingenuity. You have earned our attention, and that is rare." For the first time, the court had begun to see humans not as weak, simple creatures, but as beings capable of ingenuity, courage, and unexpected brilliance. As the stars began to appear over Trivara, Elias felt a quiet sense of pride. The trials had been difficult, the expectations high, and the scrutiny relentless. Yet he had endured, adapted, and succeeded. More importantly, he had earned the first real respect from those who had once mocked him. And he knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, higher stakes, and perhaps even the beginning of a deeper understanding between humans and Trivara. The sisters were no longer adversaries. They were allies in the making, and their respect was a reward far greater than any title or honor. Elias looked up at the alien sky, two suns replaced by countless stars. Humanity had arrived on Trivara, underestimated and dismissed, but already proving its value. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a force to be reckoned with, a representative of a species capable of thought, courage, and ingenuity. The sisters followed him silently, their previous mockery replaced by thoughtful observation. They would challenge him again, certainly, but the tone had changed. Where once there had been ridicule, there was now respect. Where there had been doubt, there was curiosity. And where there had been fear of the unknown, there was admiration. Captain Elias Monroe had survived the trials, impressed the sisters, and proven the strength of humanity, not in brute force, not in innate power, but in cleverness, adaptability, and courage. He had taken the first steps toward changing their perception of humans forever. And as the night settled over Trivara, he knew this was only the beginning. The following morning, the palace of Trivara was alive with tension. Word had spread that a human, Captain Elias Monroe, had successfully outsmarted and survived trials meant to test even the most skilled Trivarans. Whispers of curiosity, admiration, and disbelief filled the halls. The sisters who once mocked him now observed him with careful attention, their eyes full of something new, respect, and perhaps even a challenge to see how far he could go. Elias was summoned to the royal chamber. King Zorath sat on his throne, his imposing presence softened only slightly by the concern etched across his face. Leora, Vasha, and Tralia stood near him, their expressions unreadable but their eyes clearly focused on the human. "Captain Monroe," the king began, his deep voice resonant, "the current threat is not over. Scouts have reported that their fleets are regrouping and preparing a larger assault on our colonies. We must prepare immediately. The decisions you make today may determine the future of Trivara. It is one thing to plan against simulations and minor incursions. It is another to face an imminent attack with real lives at stake. We expect nothing less than your best, human. Do not disappoint us or yourself." The current fleets were moving faster than expected, their attack patterns unpredictable and coordinated. Elias began analyzing the situation, methodically reviewing every available piece of information. He noticed that the Curran were focusing on the supply lines between colonies, attempting to isolate each one before the main fleet could arrive. Humans often excelled in unexpected solutions under pressure, and he immediately began devising a plan that relied on human creativity combined with Trivaran strengths. "First," he said, addressing the officers and the sisters, "we must secure the supply lines. We will deploy smaller, agile ships to escort convoys, using unpredictable routes that the Curran cannot anticipate. Then we will create decoy fleets to draw the enemy into traps where your powers can be most effective. Each decoy will be supported by hidden fleets, coordinated to strike when the Curran engage. We rely on misdirection, timing, and the Curran underestimating us. Humans have survived against stronger opponents by thinking unpredictably." Tralia's grin returned, but it was now a smile of approval rather than mockery. The preparations began immediately. Human and Trivaran officers worked side by side, implementing Ilias' plan. He coordinated fleet movements, adjusted energy fields, and issued instructions with precision. The sisters themselves followed his guidance, combining their powers in ways that maximized the effectiveness of the strategy. Hours later, the first signs of the current attack appeared. Their ships advanced aggressively, expecting to encounter disorganized defenses. Instead, they were met with decoy fleets that moved unpredictably, drawing them into carefully calculated traps. The Kurin were disoriented, their confidence shaken as they encountered unexpected resistance. Ilias monitored the battle closely. He made real-time adjustments, redirecting fleets, shifting energy barriers, and predicting the enemy's next move. The sisters, working alongside him, were visibly impressed by his ability to remain calm and make swift, effective decisions under pressure. Leora spoke quietly to Vasha and Trelia. He is not merely clever, he anticipates, adapts, and coordinates. Few Trivarans could match his efficiency in a crisis. He is changing our perception of humans entirely. Trivara's colonies remained safe, and the kingdom's forces had suffered minimal losses. When the battle ended, King Zoreth entered the command chamber, his expression solemn but proud. "Captain Monroe, your plan has saved countless lives and preserved the strength of Trivara. Your foresight, courage, and intelligence have proven invaluable. Humans have long relied on observation, adaptability, and ingenuity to survive. I only hope to continue demonstrating these qualities for the benefit of Trivara. Humans possess a combination of creativity and courage that I did not fully appreciate. You have proven yourself worthy of our attention and admiration. Perhaps we underestimated humanity for too long." Furthermore, his voice grew firmer, carrying an authority that silenced the room. "You shall marry the three sisters. This will bind your houses, strengthen our alliances, and honor your extraordinary contributions to Trivara's survival." He had earned respect, but this decree elevated him to a position of unprecedented trust and responsibility. The sisters' reactions were immediate and varied. Leora's eyes widened, then softened, a mixture of surprise and contemplation. Vasha's hair shimmered intensely as she processed the announcement. Trelia's grin returned, this time with a mix of amusement and curiosity rather than mockery. Ilias remained calm, bowing respectfully to the king. "I am honored, your majesty. I will do my utmost to fulfill the responsibilities entrusted to me and to continue proving the worth of humanity. Yet I see in you the qualities that can guide and challenge us equally. Perhaps this union is not as unreasonable as I once thought. I suppose we shall see if your human ingenuity can continue to impress us in this new role. Consider it a challenge, human. I look forward to it." Yet he felt prepared. Humans often thrived in situations where others doubted them, using creativity, patience, and insight to turn challenges into opportunities. The palace erupted into celebrations that evening. Humans and Trivarans alike toasted to the victory over the Kurin, to the wisdom of the king, and to the unexpected alliance between species. The sisters mingled with Ilias, their playful banter now free of derision and filled with curiosity, admiration, and subtle challenges. As night fell, Ilias walked through the palace gardens alone for a moment, reflecting on the day's events. The suns had set, leaving a sky ablaze with stars, each one a reminder of the vast universe in which humanity had barely begun to make its mark. He thought of the challenges ahead, not only in strategy and defense, but in building trust, respect, and partnership with beings who were once his harshest critics. For the first time, he felt a profound sense of belonging, not just as a visitor or envoy, but as a valued participant in a new world. Humanity had arrived on Trivara, underestimated and dismissed, but now capable of altering perceptions, earning respect, and shaping the future. The sisters watched from a balcony above, their expressions reflective and serious, but tinged with something new: admiration, curiosity, and perhaps the beginnings of genuine affection. The mockery of the first day was gone, replaced by recognition of Ilias' courage, intellect, and adaptability. And as he gazed at the stars above, Ilias knew this was only the beginning. The path ahead would be filled with new challenges, unexpected trials, and opportunities to demonstrate the strength of humanity once more. He had won their respect, earned the king's trust, and begun forging alliances that could change the course of history. And now, as he prepared to navigate the complexities of the sisters, trust, and the king's decree, He realized that human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability would continue to be his greatest weapons in a galaxy that had once doubted him. Trivara was no longer a place of mockery or dismissal. It was a kingdom where humans could thrive, influence, and perhaps even lead. And Captain Elias Monroe was ready to take that responsibility, step by careful step, proving that humanity's true power lay not in physical strength or innate ability, but in the cleverness, courage, and heart that allowed them to succeed against the odds. The future was uncertain, the stakes higher than ever, but for the first time the human envoy felt that he and his species were truly seen, not as weak outsiders, but as partners, allies, and equals in a galaxy full of wonders and challenges. The sun rose over Trivara, painting the crystalline towers in gold and rose light. Captain Elias Monroe stood on the palace balcony, gazing at the bustling city below. Traders and officials moved through the streets with renewed energy. Word of his successes and the repelled Curran attack had spread like wildfire, and humans were now viewed with curiosity, admiration, and cautious respect. Yet Elias knew the work was far from over. Today would test not only his intelligence and courage, but his ability to unite two species in a common purpose. The sisters approached him, each with expressions that reflected their unique personalities. Leora's silver eyes were calm and thoughtful, Vasha's hair shimmered brightly in the sunlight, and Trelaya's playful grin hinted at curiosity rather than mischief. "The time has come, human," Leora said, her voice measured. "You have proven yourself in strategy, intellect, and courage, but alliances are fragile. You will need to show that humans are capable of true partnership. They are moving to claim territory along the border. If they succeed, it could destabilize the entire region. You must act quickly." The Dravans were aggressive but overconfident, believing the humans and Trivarans had been weakened by recent battles. He realized that direct confrontation would be costly. Instead, he devised a plan that relied on ingenuity, careful coordination, and the combined strengths of humans and the sisters. He gathered the sisters and the Trivaran officers in the command chamber. "We will use both deception and diplomacy," he explained. "We will make the Dravans believe our forces are scattered and weak. Then, at the critical moment, we will concentrate our strength where it matters most. Each of you will lead key elements using your unique abilities. Together, we will turn their overconfidence against them. This requires precision, timing, and trust. Are you confident?" Perhaps this is the human way. The sisters used their powers with precision, enhancing defensive fields, guiding attacks, and coordinating movements that would have been impossible without their psychic abilities. As the Dravan forces advanced, Elia's strategy unfolded flawlessly. Decoy fleets lured the enemy into ambushes, while hidden reinforcements struck at key points. The sisters' powers amplified the human-led maneuvers, creating an unpredictable and overwhelming response. The Dravans were thrown into confusion. Their leaders had expected disorganization and easy conquest, but instead they faced coordination, foresight, and adaptability that they had never encountered. Each attempt to regroup was anticipated and countered, forcing them into a retreat that preserved Trivara's borders and secured the loyalty of nearby clans. From the command chamber, Leora watched silently, her silver eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and surprise. "He has done it. He has orchestrated an entire defense using ingenuity and teamwork. Few Trivarans could manage such complexity. Humans often succeed by observing carefully, adapting, and using the strengths of everyone involved. Victory is rarely achieved alone. The alliance between our peoples is stronger because of you." Leora's silver eyes held a rare softness. "You have proven that humans are capable of wisdom, courage, and insight. I am honored to be your ally, and now, perhaps more than that. You have earned our trust, our admiration, and perhaps even our friendship. You have shown that humans are not to be underestimated. I look forward to what comes next." The sisters were no longer his critics but his allies, and together they had achieved something remarkable. As the evening fell over Trivara, the palace erupted in celebration. Humans and Trivarans celebrated side by side, honoring the successful defense, the human ingenuity that had saved countless lives, and the alliance that had been strengthened through courage, intelligence, and cooperation. Elias walked through the palace gardens with the sisters, the cool evening air carrying the faint scent of alien flowers. The conversation was light and filled with curiosity, laughter, and shared stories. The playful teasing that had characterized their first meeting had vanished, replaced by genuine respect and admiration. "You have changed my opinion of humans entirely," Leora said quietly. "You are clever, brave, and capable of seeing beyond what is immediately visible. I am glad to have you as an ally, perhaps more than that. I respect you deeply. Humans have always believed that perseverance, creativity, and cooperation are the keys to success. I am glad to show that these qualities can make a difference even among the stars." For the first time, Elias felt that he truly belonged, not just on Trivara, but as a representative of humanity among allies who now valued his presence, judgment, and insight. King Zorath approached, his gaze sweeping over the group. "Captain Monroe, your actions have not only saved our kingdom, but have elevated the status of humanity in ways few could imagine. You have earned the respect of this court, the trust of the sisters, and the admiration of our people. You are now a valued part of Trivara's future. I will continue to serve with the best of my abilities and ensure that humanity remains a worthy ally of Trivara. Together, we can accomplish much. You have earned our trust, and perhaps more than that." As night fell and the stars glimmered over Trivara, Elias stood with the sisters and the king, looking out over the city that sparkled like a jewel in the alien night. The future was uncertain, the challenges ahead unknown, but he knew one thing with certainty. Humans had earned their place among the stars, and he would continue to prove that they were capable of greatness. The sisters laughed together, teasing him gently now, their earlier mockery transformed into camaraderie and admiration. Elias smiled, understanding that this was more than a victory in strategy or combat. It was the triumph of respect, cooperation, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. And as the stars shone brightly above, Trivara and humanity stood united, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy might bring together. Elias knew that this was only the beginning. The future held new adventures, new threats, and new opportunities for humans to demonstrate their ingenuity, courage, and heart. And with the sisters by his side, he was ready to face it all. Humanity had arrived, underestimated no longer.